I never thought I'd be the guy posting on Reddit, looking for advice from strangers. But here I am, sitting in a half-empty apartment, wondering where the hell everything went wrong. My name's Chris. I'm 36. My wife, Laura, is 34. We've been together for 11 years, married for 7. We met at a mutual friend's barbecue, you know, one of those how did you two meet stories that always sounds like fate. She spilled wine on my shirt, I cracked a joke, she laughed. Classic rom-com setup. But this story? This one doesn't have a happy ending. At least not yet. For years, everything seemed normal. We had our ups and downs, just like any couple, but nothing that set off major alarms. We didn't have kids yet, but we'd talked about it. I thought we were building something real. We had plans. Dreams. A shared Google Calendar. It started changing maybe 8 months ago. Subtle stuff. At first, I didn't even realize it. Just little things. She'd suddenly become obsessed with fitness. She joined a new gym across town, even though we had one 5 minutes away. Started dressing differently. More makeup. New underwear. And I know how that sounds. I know, it screams cliché. But when it's someone you love, you don't jump to conclusions. You tell yourself, she's just growing. Finding herself. That's good, right? She was also on her phone constantly. I used to joke that she texted more than our teenage niece. But the jokes stopped being funny when she started hiding the screen. Tilting it away from me. Locking it even when she'd just be going to the bathroom. I brought it up once, casually, just trying not to sound paranoid. She laughed and said I was getting old and jealous, said I should get a hobby. Yeah. I should have taken that more seriously. One Friday night, she told me she was going out with coworkers. They were doing a girls' night, some wine bar downtown. I told her to have fun. She didn't kiss me goodbye. Didn't even say she loved me. She came home late. Like, really late. Around 2:30 a.m. her makeup was smudged, her blouse buttoned wrong. I asked if everything was okay, and she brushed me off. Said God, Chris, don't be so dramatic. Then she passed out on the couch. That was the first time I felt it. The girl I'd been blindly staring at for years. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. And I didn't want to believe it. But part of me already knew. After that night, I couldn't shake the feeling. I kept replaying it in my head like a bad movie on loop. The smudged makeup, the unbuttoned blouse, the cold tone in her voice. Laura wasn't the same woman I married. Hell, she wasn't even the same woman I'd had dinner with a few weeks ago. Something inside her had shifted. For a few days, I tried to act normal. I hoped, prayed, that it was just stress. Maybe work was getting to her. Maybe she was going through something she didn't want to talk about yet. I've always been the kind of guy who gives space. I never wanted to be that husband, always checking her phone, demanding answers. I respected her privacy. But respect started to feel a lot like naivety. The next Saturday, I made breakfast. Pancakes, her favorite. I thought maybe we could sit down and just talk. She came downstairs in yoga pants and a top that barely covered her bra. Didn't even glance at the pancakes. Just grabbed her water bottle and said, I've got a double class today. Don't wait up. Double class? On a Saturday? She'd never done that before. So I asked, gently, hey, maybe we could talk tonight? Just catch up, you know? We haven't really connected lately. She sighed loud. Like I was bothering her. Chris, seriously? I just need space. You're smothering me. I'm doing this for me. Why does everything have to be about you? And just like that, she was out the door. I sat there staring at her uneaten pancakes for almost an hour. That's when I decided to do something I never thought I'd do. I opened her laptop. I knew her password. Same one she'd always used, our anniversary date. Funny, right? At first, it was innocent. Just checking her emails, seeing if there was anything suspicious. I almost backed out. But then I noticed something. Her Gmail had another account logged in, one I didn't recognize. A backup, maybe? It was under a different name. I clicked it. Boom. Messages. Photos. Calendar invites. There it was. All of it. Conversations with a guy named Jay. At first, I didn't know who he was. But as I scrolled, I saw more. Reservations at hotels. Flirty selfies she'd never sent me. One message said, last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about your hands. My stomach dropped. There were dates, ones that lined up exactly with her girls' nights. I closed the laptop, My hands were shaking. I felt like I was going to throw up. There it was. The truth, sitting in black and white. My wife, the woman I trusted more than anyone, had been sleeping with someone else. And the worst part? I still wanted to believe there was some explanation. Some way this wasn't what it looked like. I think denial is the last thing to die. It took me 2 full days to build up the nerve. 2 days of pretending everything was fine, while inside, I was falling apart. I'd sit across from her at the dinner table, watching her scroll through her phone, laughing at messages, probably from him, and I'd bite my tongue so hard I tasted blood. I needed a plan. I needed to be calm. Rational. Not the jealous husband. Not the crazy one. I needed her to show me who she really was. No more pretending. So on a Monday evening, when she came home from work, or whatever she called it now, I waited until she set her purse down and kicked off her heels. She walked into the kitchen, poured herself a glass of wine, and didn't even acknowledge me. I cleared my throat. "We need to talk," I said, and my voice cracked just slightly. She turned around, annoyed. "What now?" I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just looked her straight in the eye and said, "Who's Jay?" Her entire body froze. She blinked, twice, and then tilted her head like she was confused. "What?" "You heard me," I said. "Jay. The guy you've been messaging. The hotel reservations. The photos. I saw it all." Silence. For about 5 seconds. Then came the light. She scoffed. "You've been snooping through my stuff? Wow, Chris. Real mature. I can't believe you'd violate my privacy like that." I laughed, bitterly. "That's what you're going with? Not denying it? Just turning it around on me?" She put down the wine glass and crossed her arms. "It's none of your business. You don't own me. I don't owe you anything." My heart dropped. That wasn't a denial. That was a confession dressed up in spite. I kept my voice even. "How long has it been going on?" She rolled her eyes. "Does it matter? You clearly made up your mind. Why don't you just leave if you're so hurt?" That was the moment something inside me snapped. Not in anger, but in clarity. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even embarrassed. There was no guilt. No shame. Just a wall of coldness and resentment I'd never seen before. "You know," I said quietly, "I used to think we were partners. That even if we were struggling, we'd fight through it together. But I see now. You checked out a long time ago." She didn't respond. Just grabbed her wine and walked upstairs. I sat down on the couch, staring into nothing. I'd confronted her. I had my answers. But now I had a new question. What the hell do I do next? After she walked upstairs that night, I didn't follow her. I didn't even move. I sat on the couch, staring at the blank television screen, trying to figure out what had just happened. I always thought when someone got cheated on, there'd be this big, dramatic scene. Yelling. Crying. Slamming doors. But all I felt was nothing. Numbness. It was like someone had turned down the volume on my entire life. I don't know how long I sat there. An hour? 2? Eventually, I wandered into the guest room and just lay down on top of the blanket, fully dressed. I didn't even bother turning off the light. I just stared at the ceiling and waited for sleep that didn't come. The next morning, I woke up groggy and disoriented. She was already gone. Left early for work, I guess, whatever that meant now. No note. No text. Just absence. The house felt bigger than usual. Too quiet. Too still. I walked into her bedroom, half expecting to find some kind of apology note. Nothing. Her side of the bed was perfectly made. I opened the closet. Half of her clothes were missing. Not all, but enough to notice. A suitcase was gone. I checked the bathroom. Her skincare stuff, her perfume, most of it was still there. But not her toothbrush. She was preparing for something. Maybe not a full-on move. But she was shifting. Pulling back. Creating space. And I wasn't invited. I sat down on the edge of the bed and started to cry. Real, ugly crying. The kind that hits you in waves, not just because of the betrayal, but because of the loss of what you thought you had. That's the part people don't always talk about. When you find out your partner's been cheating, it's not just them you lose. You lose the version of your life you thought was real. The dinners. The vacations. The inside jokes. The nights you thought were just off but now feel like lies. All of it gets poisoned. That afternoon, I called in sick to work. Told them I had a migraine. In a way, I did. My entire body hurt. I couldn't think straight. Couldn't eat. Couldn't focus. I just kept hearing her voice in my head. Why don't you just leave if you're so hurt? Maybe I should. But where do you go when your home isn't yours anymore? After 2 days of silence and avoidance, something inside me snapped again, not in anger, but in this obsessive need to know everything. I couldn't live in limbo anymore. Not knowing was eating me alive. I needed the full picture. The details. The lies she told. The moments I mistook for love that were really just cover-ups. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I became a detective in my own marriage. I started by going back into her hidden Gmail account. I read every message between her and Jay. There were hundreds. Some were flirty. Some were explicit. Some were even casual, like they were a normal couple, talking about what to order for dinner or what show to binge next. That killed me. It wasn't just sex. It was connection. She gave to him what she stopped giving to me. They'd been seeing each other for 10 months. 10. That meant she'd already been with him when we went to our anniversary dinner last winter, the one where she said she had food poisoning halfway through and went home early. I thought it was legit. Turns out, she met up with him that night. She even messaged him while I was sitting across the table from her, trying to tell her how lucky I felt. Then I checked her photos. A secret folder. I didn't even know iPhones had those. Hidden photos of her in lingerie I'd never seen. Hotel selfies. One in particular crushed me. She was wearing my old hoodie, in bed with him, laughing into the camera like she was 16 again. I threw up. Literally. I barely made it to the bathroom. My stomach couldn't handle it. I sat on the floor, shaking, drenched in sweat. I had seen enough. Too much. But I couldn't stop. I needed to know who this guy was. So I did a reverse image search on one of his selfies. Long story short, I found him. His name's Jake. He's a trainer at the new gym she joined. He's younger. Muscular. One of those guys who posts shirtless motivational videos with captions like "Grind harder, kings." Of course. Of freaking course. I found his Instagram. He had tagged her in a photo. Not with her name, just a hand on his chest, clearly hers. The caption? "Someone special keeping me strong," flexed biceps emoji, red heart emoji. She left a fire emoji in the comments. And all I could think was, how long has she wanted to get caught? You'd think after reading those messages and seeing those photos, I'd be done. That I'd pack my bags, ghost her, and disappear into the sunset with at least some dignity intact. But nope. I guess love makes you stupid. Or maybe it's pride. Or just this deep human need to hear someone admit what they did, out loud. So I waited. I planned it out. That weekend, Laura had told me she was going to a wellness retreat with a friend from work. 2 nights in a cabin somewhere upstate. I nodded. Smiled. Told her to have fun. She didn't even bother to lie creatively anymore. The morning she left, I waited exactly 3 hours. Then drove to the address listed on her rental car reservation. Yeah, I'd checked the email confirmation on her laptop. Turns out this retreat was actually a hotel 2 towns over. Nothing fancy. Just private. I sat in my car across the street, heart racing, palms sweating. I didn't even know what I was doing. What was the plan? To bust into their room? To scream in the lobby? But then I saw them. Hand in hand, walking out of the hotel like a damn rom-com couple. She was wearing jeans and his hoodie. Laughing. Throwing her head back the way she used to with me. He kissed her neck while unlocking his car. She didn't flinch. She leaned into it. I felt my soul leave my body. I couldn't stop myself. I got out of the car and shouted her name. Laura. She froze. Jake turned, confused. She went pale. I walked right up to them. My voice calm, too calm. Wellness retreat, huh? She started stammering. Chris, what are you doing here? Jake put a protective hand on her shoulder like I was the threat. That sent me into another level of disbelief. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "You know she's married, right?" He blinked. "She said you were separated." I laughed. Loud. Bitter. "She lives in my house. Slept in my bed last night." Laura stepped in. "Chris, stop making a scene." And that was it. That phrase. Stop making a scene. Not "I'm sorry." Not "I can explain." Just embarrassment. Because I had the nerve to drag her fantasy life into the real world. So I turned to Jake and said, "Good luck, man. She's your problem now." Then I got in my car and drove off. No yelling. No crying. Just the heaviest silence I've ever known. After the confrontation outside the hotel, I drove aimlessly for hours. No destination. Just roads. I needed to breathe, to scream, to not exist for a while. I kept replaying it in my head, the look on her face when I caught her, not in fear or shame, but in annoyance. Like I was a kid who'd embarrassed her at a dinner party. And Jake? He looked more confused than anything, like he didn't even know what kind of mess he'd stepped into. It wasn't just the betrayal anymore. It was the sheer casualness of it. I eventually made it back home around 6 p.m. The sun was going down, casting these long shadows through the windows. The house looked the same, but everything felt wrong. Like someone had rearranged the furniture while I was gone, even though nothing had moved. She didn't come home that night. No call. No text. Not even a screw you. I stayed up, sitting on the couch with a blanket wrapped around me like a shield. At one point, I looked at my phone, hoping for a message. Hoping she'd say, "I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Can we talk?" But there was nothing. I eventually crashed around 3 a.m., still in my jeans. I didn't bother going upstairs. The bedroom felt like enemy territory now. When I woke up the next morning, I checked the driveway. Her car wasn't there. She hadn't come back. I made coffee. Stared at the cup for 10 minutes before realizing I hadn't added sugar. Or milk. Or even turned the stove off. That's when the anxiety hit. It wasn't a panic attack exactly, but my heart was pounding, my chest was tight, and I couldn't seem to catch my breath. I called a buddy of mine, Nate. We hadn't talked in a while. I just said, "Can I come over?" He didn't ask questions. Just said, "Yeah. Doors open." When I got to his place, I broke down. Told him everything. The emails. The hotel. The confrontation. The silence. He didn't interrupt. Just handed me a beer and let me talk. After I finished, he leaned back and said, "Dude. She's not even trying to fix it. That says everything." And he was right. I wasn't dealing with someone who made a mistake and felt remorse. I was dealing with someone who made choices and felt entitled. She didn't come home that night either. She came back on Tuesday night. I heard the garage door first, that low mechanical hum that used to make me feel safe. Now it felt like a warning siren. I was sitting in the living room, lights off, just the TV glowing. I didn't even register what I was watching. My hands were clasped together, elbows on my knees, heart racing. The door opened. She stepped in like nothing happened. Like she'd just run to the store. A duffel bag slung over her shoulder, hair tied back, still wearing his hoodie. I didn't say anything at first. I wanted to see what she would do. What she would say. She set the bag down and exhaled like she had been through something traumatic. Then she looked at me and said, "We need to talk." No apology. No "Hey, I'm sorry I disappeared." Just that. I nodded. "Yeah. We really do." She didn't sit down. Just stood there by the kitchen counter like she was about to pitch me a business plan. "I think we should separate for a while," she said, as if she'd rehearsed the line. "I need space to figure out what I want. I think we've been growing apart for a long time, and I don't feel the same anymore." I stared at her. No words. Just disbelief. "So you cheated," I finally said, "because we were growing apart?" She sighed. "Don't make this about cheating. It's about us. You've been emotionally distant for years." I actually laughed. "So your solution was to get physically close to someone else?" She folded her arms. "Don't twist this. I'm just trying to be honest now. Now. After 10 months of lies." I stood up. "You want space? Take it. But don't pretend like this is some mutual thing. You've been living a double life and now that I've caught you, you want to rebrand it as a fresh start." She flinched at the word double life, but didn't deny it. Then she said the coldest thing I've ever heard from someone I once loved. "I think you're just scared to be alone." My jaw dropped. "No," I said. "I think you're scared to admit you blew up your life for a guy who posts shirtless selfies and motivational quotes." That shut her up. She grabbed her bag, walked upstairs, and didn't say another word. Later that night, I heard her moving things around. Closet doors opening. Hangers clanging. She was packing. Or pretending to. And I lay on the couch, wide awake, realizing something. The woman I married was gone. Maybe she'd been gone for a long time. The next morning, the silence in the house was suffocating. Laura was already gone when I woke up. I didn't see her car in the driveway, and her phone went straight to voicemail. It felt like the calm before a storm, except the storm had already passed, and I was left in ruins. I spent the day walking through the apartment like a ghost, touching things she had touched, trying to make sense of the wreckage. Our photos on the walls, souvenirs from trips we never thought would end, clothes in the laundry basket, each piece a reminder of a life I thought we were building together. I called my parents but couldn't find the words. I didn't want to lie, but I wasn't ready to say the truth either. So I just told them I wasn't feeling well. They understood, but I could hear the concern in their voices. I reached out to a therapist I'd been curious about for a while. I made an appointment for the following week. Maybe I wasn't ready to fix everything, but I was ready to stop breaking down alone. That evening, I sent Laura a text. No accusations. No pleading. Just 3 words, "We need help." She responded the next day with a cold, "I'm not interested." And there it was again. The door slammed shut. I realized that this wasn't just about her cheating. It was about her refusing to face what she'd done, refusing to take responsibility, refusing to fight for us. And for the first time, I thought maybe the fight was on me. The fight to find myself again. The fight to build a future, even if it wasn't with her. Because I still believed in love. Just maybe not her love anymore. Therapy was the hardest thing I'd ever done. Sitting in that sterile office, talking about my pain, my anger, my shattered trust, it felt like ripping off a bandage I didn't even know was there. The therapist, a calm woman named Sarah, listened without judgment. She didn't tell me what to do. She just asked questions. Simple questions that made me think. "Chris, what do you want for yourself?" she asked on our first session. I had no answer. I wanted my wife back, yes. But I also wanted to scream, to break things, to disappear. I wanted to understand why the person I loved could hurt me so deeply. Over the next few weeks, I started to see small changes. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes, expecting her to call or text. I started sleeping a little better. I even took up running again, something I hadn't done in years. The physical exhaustion helped clear my mind. Laura still ignored my messages. She wasn't ready to talk. And honestly, I wasn't sure if I wanted to drag her back into my life when she'd already broken it. But for the first time in months, I felt like I was me again. The man I was before all this started. Maybe even a better version of him. Because healing isn't about forgetting. It's about learning how to live with the pain without letting it define you. And that's what I was starting to do. After weeks of therapy and some semblance of calm, the question I'd been avoiding stared me right in the face. What now? Do I try to save this marriage? Do I fight for the woman who betrayed me? Or do I let go and start over? Every day felt like a battle between hope and reality. I remembered the early days, how Laura's laugh used to fill the room, how we'd talk for hours about our dreams, how safe I felt just holding her hand. That memory hurt because it felt like a lifetime ago. But I also remembered the lies. The nights she came home late, smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. The cold silences. The dismissive texts. The way she looked at me like I was the problem. I talked to Sarah about it. She said, "Chris, forgiveness is possible. But trust is earned. And that's the hard part." I knew she was right. I reached out to Laura one last time. No anger. No blame. Just a question, "Can we meet?" To talk. Honestly. She agreed. That meeting was surreal. Sitting across from her, seeing the person I once loved and the stranger who shattered my world in the same body. She apologized, a little. Said she was confused, scared, and didn't know how to be the wife I deserved. But apologies felt hollow. I wanted actions. We agreed to try counseling together. A last shot. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe this is the beginning of the end. Or maybe the start of something new. Either way, I'm choosing to fight for myself. Because sometimes, the hardest battles are the ones within. After weeks of therapy and some semblance of calm, the question I'd been avoiding stared me right in the face. What now? Do I try to save this marriage? Do I fight for the woman who betrayed me? Or do I let go and start over? Every day felt like a battle between hope and reality. I remembered the early days, how Laura's laugh used to fill the room, how we'd talk for hours about our dreams, how safe I felt just holding her hand. That memory hurt because it felt like a lifetime ago. But I also remembered the lies. The nights she came home late, smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. The cold silences. The dismissive texts. The way she looked at me like I was the problem. I talked to Sarah about it. She said, "Chris, Forgiveness is possible. But trust is earned. And that's the hard part. I knew she was right. I reached out to Laura one last time. No anger. No blame. Just a question, can we meet? To talk. Honestly. She agreed. That meeting was surreal. Sitting across from her, seeing the person I once loved and the stranger who shattered my world in the same body. She apologized, a little. Said she was confused, scared, and didn't know how to be the wife I deserved. But apologies felt hollow. I wanted actions. We agreed to try counseling together. A last shot. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe this is the beginning of the end. Or maybe the start of something new. Either way, I'm choosing to fight for myself. Because sometimes, the hardest battles are the ones within. Couples therapy wasn't what I expected. It was brutal. Sitting in that room with Laura, with a stranger listening, forced us to strip everything bare. The anger. The hurt. The betrayal. The lies. Laura cried more than I did, not because she was sorry, but because the truth hurt her too. She admitted she felt lost, overwhelmed by expectations she couldn't meet. She said she'd found comfort in Jake, someone who made her feel alive again. I listened. I didn't interrupt. But inside, I was breaking apart. The therapist asked questions that cut deep. What did you need from each other that you didn't get? When did the distance start? We stumbled through the answers. I realized I'd shut down too, emotionally checked out in ways I hadn't noticed. Maybe that drove her away. But no excuse justified what she did. One session, Laura admitted something that shattered me all over again. She said, I never stopped loving you. But I didn't love myself. That hit me hard. I wanted to fix everything, to heal us both. But how do you heal when one person is still fractured? Some days, therapy gave me hope. Other days, it made me feel hopeless. But I kept going. Because giving up felt worse. After several therapy sessions, the question weighed heavier than ever. Can trust really be rebuilt after this? Laura and I started small, sharing daily updates, texting about errands, even sitting down for dinner without silence killing the mood. These moments felt fragile, like glass about to shatter, but they were steps. I wanted to believe in us again. To imagine a future where this pain was a distant memory. But every time I looked at her, I saw the shadow of what she'd done. The betrayal was a ghost between us, whispering doubts. I caught myself second-guessing every word, every smile, every late-night text. Was she lying again? Was this a new form of manipulation? I asked Sarah about it. She said, trust isn't binary. It's a process, messy, imperfect, and slow. That stuck with me. One night, Laura broke down and told me she hated herself for what she'd done. That she wanted to earn back my trust but didn't know how. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe in us. But the scars don't disappear overnight. I realized healing was going to take time, and patience. From both of us. It's been a few months since Laura and I decided to separate. The house feels emptier, quieter, but somehow lighter too. I've had time to think, about love, betrayal, and most importantly, about myself. What I've learned is this. People change. Sometimes, they change in ways you can't control or fix. And sometimes, the person you love the most becomes a stranger. That doesn't mean you failed. It means life isn't always the storybook ending we hope for. I've also learned that healing isn't linear. Some days, I'm okay. Other days, the pain hits like a freight train. But every day, I'm choosing to keep moving forward. To rebuild my life, piece by piece. And to be kinder to myself. If you're out there, going through something similar, know this. You are not alone. It's okay to feel broken. It's okay to cry. It's okay to ask for help. But don't let betrayal define you. You deserve happiness. You deserve respect. And most of all, you deserve to be loved, truly and fully. Thank you for listening to my story. If you found this helpful or relatable, please hit that subscribe button. There's more ahead, stories of pain, strength, and hope. Let's get through this together.